So hi everybody. So I just want to touch up on a really important matter that I feel is important. Like I express my comments over YouTube, but it's better if you see it on the video. That way you can tell what the person that's actually thinking and their reaction. So, sorry. Oh, discombobulated here. Sorry guys. So anyway, there's this person that was doing like YouTube videos and he was preaching outside in the city. I don't know where, but he was preaching about God in that, and like you said that Jesus loves us and that, which is okay. I agree with that because he does love us. We're all his children. What I have noticed though on his videos is that he has, when somebody, is categorized in LGBTQ, whether you're gay or lesbian or transgender, in his mind, he seems to think that the Bible condemns that and that these people should be punished, or maybe not in that sense, but are betraying God and Jesus, and I don't think that's fair, I don't think that's right. And I know he said, yesterday when I watched this video, that people are mentally ill because of unclean spirits. Now, I have no doubt, I do believe that people have seen spirits that terrorize them, and that can affect their mental health. Whether you're terrorized by a living person or you're terrorized by the dead, it can affect your mental health. So I'm not saying that there's, I'm not saying that, your spirits out there that are totally clean, but to say that somebody's cause of mental illness is by their own unclean spirit, that's how I viewed it, is not okay. It's not true. And to me, it kind of puts a blame on the person who's, like, become mentally ill. That's so far from the truth. Like, and this guy who's doing it, I found out his username goes by Nicholas Bowling. Right? And what he's saying and what he's telling people is so wrong to me, because I feel in my heart, and I know this because I saw a clip on the movie, that Jesus died not because of our choices and who we want to date and marry and what gender we marry. He died to symbolize that taking another person's life, vandalism, stealing somebody's, personal belongings, and spreading hate like he does, telling somebody that how they should live their life. That's all a crime. That is something that Jesus died for, so that he can prove to you that none of that's going to be okay, and that will get punished big time. He died for that. He died to prove that point. So the fact that somebody's basically saying, or at least trying, my point of view is basically saying that being gay or lesbian, telling somebody that what they choose and who they choose to date is wrong, and that they're committing a crime, is extremely offensive to me. Especially since when I was 13 or 14 years old, I had an incident with somebody, you know? He never fully raped me or sexually assaulted me, but he was attempting to. But I stood my ground, and I didn't let him go that far. But the situation made me extremely uncomfortable. And from that point on, I've never, ever, ever had any desire to date or kiss a man ever again. My attraction led to women, even though women can be just as bad, if not worse, than men. I've no doubt about that. Right? There are some pretty brutal women out there. And I will admit, I have my fair shares of brutality, and I may not be the most caring, loyal woman out there ever, but I try to be, and I try to be as kind as I could. But to say that I am a terrible person, and to say that I should be punished by God for choosing to be attracted to other women is disgusting. What I choose to live my life, whoever I choose to date, is my decision. And whatever opinion people have, that's their opinion, right? Like, I don't like some certain stuff about some people either. Like, there's some people out there with intellectual disabilities who I think could be smart enough to be independent, smart enough to go out on their own, but they choose not to sometimes. And to me, that should be condemned, right? Because I don't believe that we're made to be sitting on our behinds all the time and be chauffeured, If you are able to do it and look smart enough to do it, even if you have severe autism, they have been proven again to have good jobs, to go to college, and to be independent, So, and I am on this Facebook group called North Bay Freebies, and there's so many people, like thousands of people, that ask for donations and items and groceries and that. And whenever I pipe up and say my concerns whether or not, and ask whether or not if the person really needs help, or if they're just trying to take advantage of them, because in my opinion, some of them live downtown. Some of them live close to downtown. There should be no reason why they can't walk to the bus and just give a few dollars and then get a bus transfer. right? There should be no reason why they can't go to the Northfields on a bus and buy their own groceries or go to the food bank. Instead, they always come out with that, oh, their ID's expired and that. It's like, that's so untrue. You can go and get yourself another ID. You don't have to pay for that. Sometimes. You don't have to pay for that. You can easily go upgrade your ID. You don't have to pay for that. You know? If you need to upgrade your health card or your ID, you don't have to pay for that. To me, these people are just being lazy. To me, they're like just saying that, oh, I just don't want to go out anywhere. And yet, I get comments back that are extremely hateful. People are not very nice whenever I ask that question. And yeah, as much as I would like to tell them that they are punished, they should be punished for that. That as much as I would like to say that, you're disgrace against God and Jesus, I still don't say that. I don't say that no matter how much I want to. Because to me, that's not necessary. If people want to throw it back in my face, and then that's their problem. Like, I don't go out there telling anybody in a wheelchair that you should get up and walk like a person, like a normal person, because sometimes they can't. Sometimes that's the way they're born, or they got into an accident and they got injured or something. Lots of people can't help the way that they are. And it's not illegal. No matter what my opinion is and what your opinion is on it, as long as the person is not vandalizing, taking a life from somebody else, stealing, somebody's belongings, or stealing from a local business that somebody worked very hard for, and being hateful and discriminatory, as long as somebody's not wheeling around their wheelchair telling everybody F off or saying that you're worthless, son of a bitch, move out of my way, then who cares? Who cares? And it's the same that goes for being gay and lesbian, and even transgender. And it's not fair to basically say that our intellectual disabilities or our physical disabilities are made because we have dirty souls, or because we're such dirty people in a way. That's what I feel about how this Nicholas says all this. That's how I view it. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But it just sounds derogatory. Whenever he speaks, it just doesn't sound right, Like, nobody tells him that he's wrong for preaching about God, that he should be punished for his opinions. Nobody wishes harm on him. Nobody wishes, but one of these days, somebody's going to have enough and somebody's going to pop him right in the nose. Punch him out for that. Because of what he says. And he can view it as, oh, people hate Christians and people hate this and people hate that, but that's not the truth. It's about what he's saying and how he says it. It's how he says things. That's the problem. That's what makes people mad and get angry. And one of these days, they're gonna pop him right in the nose. You know? They're gonna right in the nose. And probably extremely hard too. No, they can punch him out. They can knock him out. Cold. You know? He wakes up in the hospital bed. Oh well, not my shit. Not my problem. You know? He's the one asking for it. You know? He's the one going out there telling other people that who they should and should not date. And telling other people that, you know, mental illness and having an intellectual disability is caused by an unclean spirit. That's not true. People that, let's just say, you know, somebody develops a mental illness, that's got nothing to do with, you know, what they did and did not do, you know? Unless you're anorexic, then yeah, but that still has nothing to do with an unclean soul. That's just a person being stupid. Anorexia, yes, that's caused by a person who doesn't eat. That's basically human caused. That's their fault because they're stupid. It has nothing to do with their spirit or soul or any religious beliefs or behaviors about it, you know? But there's some people out there that have anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, and that. And they can develop that over time because a lot of the times that's brought on by like situations that they didn't have any control over. Sometimes that can be brought on by like somebody at work, you know, like an employee or a boss that comes in and yells at the employee for not doing a simple job right, even though the job is done and she did it already. And it looks fine. You know, it may not be what they wanted. Not be the way that way they wanted. And so they just yell at them. And that can cause anxiety disorders. I remember my great aunt Pat told me when we were talking the last time, she told me that my cousin Shayna, because we were talking about how she developed anxiety, right? She told me that her mom wasn't a big part of her life. Right? Her mom didn't pay attention to her. Like she basically raised Shayna herself. And yeah, she went back and forth to her mom's place, but I believe that when she was at her mom's place over time, she got older. She developed anxiety because she probably felt that she did something wrong, you know? Because why else would a parent, why else would anybody think their mom, their mother that brought life to them into the world, you know? That, you know, just doesn't want to be bothered with them? You would think that over time, that child would think that there's something wrong with them, that they did something wrong. And to me, that can cause, because Shane has a lot of problems. Shane doesn't have much friends at all. She only has a few guy friends, but that's about it. Because of the way she was raised by her mom. And she wasn't really raised by her mom. She was just left to fend for herself. And we rely on our mom for support, for food, to tell us what we can and cannot do, to teach us what's right and wrong, right? We rely on our mom to socialize properly and to correct us when we're not behaving appropriately around other kids, right? So that we learn to grow up and we learn to develop healthy relationships with people. And if your mom is not a part of your life and it's just, and you know, she knows that you're her child. She knows that Shayna is her child, but then still acts like she is a random person that broke into the house and just decided to live there. Like a squatter, basically. Like, no. Like, that's not very nice to do that to your child. To act like they're not even a part of you. But yet she spends time with her boyfriend's children. But she doesn't spend time with Shayna. And I guess with Shayna, she feels really horrible because she wants to be included too. You know? Shayna feels left out. And to me, that's awful. You know? And to me, that would cause a lot of rift and a lot of anxiety over time. You know? And to me, it can cause problems with wanting to make friends and that. Because you would think that the person would feel that they can't let anybody else into their life because they think maybe they're a terrible person when they're really not. You know? They maybe feel on the inside that they're just a strange person. Like, and it's wrong. It's totally wrong. So a lot of these mental illnesses are not from unclean spirits. They're not created by us. Yeah, sometimes we're born with it, but that has nothing to do with our soul or evil spirits in the world, or, that's just cuckoo thinking. That's just bizarre to me. Like, I believe in spirits, but, whatever he said is just cuckoo. It's just crazy. I don't even think a person that has full on psychosis would ever say anything that stupid. Like, I can't fathom that why anybody would say such a thing. I just don't know what to say about that. But I'm telling you now, it's not. It's not from. It's not having anything to do with you or me or, you know. it can either be something that you're born with, in your genes, or it could be an experience that happened in your life, whether it was a bullying at school, being shoved in lockers or something, or like I said, maybe your parents or parent, whether it's your mom or your dad or both, are kind of neglectful. You don't have to be like physically and emotionally, you don't have to be physically abused, but just to not pay attention to you and just not want anything to do with you, and yet you have another sibling that they spend all their time with. Like, that is abuse. That is something that is against the law. If one child is experiencing abuse and the other child is not, they can get into a lot of trouble for that. By law. In Canada too. Yes, they really can. We take that very seriously. And because it does put emotional abuse on the child. What my cousin Shayna had to endure as a child, I can't even fathom that. I can't even say to her, I know how you feel. Because I never experienced that as a child. I never experienced neglect. I never experienced... Even when my mom had to place me in a group home, she was always there. They always took me home. To go to school. They didn't have to, but they did. And I've seen parents that leave their children at the group home not come back for them. It's the most hurtful thing ever. It's hurtful. And to say that, to blame us for that, for our parents, for us being mentally ill, when we might not be even born that way, but somebody made us like that because they made us feel that we don't belong, that we're worthless, that we're stupid, That is so bogus. That's bullshit. And same with being gay and lesbian. Like, anybody in the LGBTQ community. Like, it's the same like that. Like, to condemn somebody and to say that you should be punished for dating your own gender. I take full offense to that as well. You don't know what the person's going through. You don't know why the person has done that. Sometimes it's a choice. Majority of the time, no, it's not a choice. You're born like that, but you don't have to be. You can just automatically develop a sexual attraction to the opposite gender, just boom like that as you get older. But then sometimes our attractions and our feelings for other people change because of situations that we had no control over. But majority of the time, people are born like that. And then, but it's not wrong. It's not. And I wish this Nicholas guy would stop telling people how to live their lives. You know? I wish he would stop trying to make people feel that, like, who they choose to date is wrong. You know? And then had the audacity to say that, these people hate Christians. These people don't like Christians because they got demons within them or something. Whatever. That's so far from the truth. It's not even true. Because I have seen the videos. And there have been people that double-crossed him. And they even said that they read the Bible themselves. Lots of people have got after him and that are Christians and that are Catholics and that believe in Jesus and God. And they still got after him. So it has nothing to do with hating Catholics or hating Christians and that. It's everything to do with what the person is saying and how it's being said. Like, I don't care about his opinion. People can have their opinions all they want. Anybody, I'm not forcing somebody to like gay and lesbian to people. And I'm not forcing anybody to, nobody's forcing you to, hang out with them. And nobody's forcing somebody to like people that have a mental illness or that are intellectually disabled or whatever, or physically disabled. You know what? There's always somebody out there for everybody. And if you prefer not to be friends with somebody because of that, then that's your opinion. You don't have to be. Like, but you certainly don't have the right to say that people should be punished. And by God and Jesus because of how they live their life. And who they choose to date. And what gender they choose to date. I mean, this Nicholas guy can have his opinion all he wants. But he's not saying his opinion. He's being a bully. He's being derogatory and hateful.